client's just got a speeding fine before the ride even started.
Yeah, what are you going to answer? Phone he's on his way here.
Everything flows straight from your mouth, everything that you say. Everything flows straight from your mouth, everything that you say. It's like it's always over.
Hi. As you might know, Captain Thunderbolt was a legendary pirate who, along with his mighty fighting bear Oliver, upon whose back he rode, and his crew of buccaneering cutthroats, was shipwrecked off the coast of New South Wales near where Port Macquarie now stands in the early years of the 19th century. Half Cherokee and half Serbian, Captain Thunderbolt's real name was Magua Mingo Popovic, and he had set off from his lair on the island of Wangi Wangi in the Indonesian archipelago to raid Aboriginal villages along the east coast of Australia for gold, slaves and magical curse bones. A mighty storm wrecked his ship, the Golden Rhine, and set in train a series of epic events which saw Captain Thunderbolt, astride his fighting bear Oliver, lead an army of several thousand elite Aboriginal warriors and bloodthirsty Maori mercenaries against the smelly English in a series of pitched battles that stretched up the east coast of Australia along a road that is now known as Thunderbolts Way. Sadly, his legend has been ruthlessly suppressed by the clero-fascism of the Catholic Church, which has promoted instead the story of the Irishman Ned Kelly as a true Australian hero. But Ned Kelly never had a bear upon whose back he rode when he went to kill Englishmen, and thus he could never be as awesome as Captain Thunderbolt, whose way we shall travel upon today. We're in Gloucester. Gloucester is now named after the cowardly British commander Colonel Edwin Gloucester of the 14th Hussars. In the time of Captain Thunderbolt, this area was known as Yellow Cliffs, and the battle that was fought here was called the Battle of Yellow Cliffs. It was on these cliffs that Captain Thunderbolt and his warriors rained death down upon the hapless English, much like the Jews did upon the Romans at Masada. The difference was that Captain Thunderbolt was riding a bear, and he and his men did not kill themselves at the end like the Jews did. Anyway, they moved north after crushing Gloucester's 14th Hussars and littering the ground with their broken bodies, some of which fed Oliver, who really enjoyed the taste of their sour English marrow. Here we are at Mayor's Run. Here is where Captain Thunderbolt executed a brilliant flanking manoeuvre 7 days after kicking the shit out of Gloucester's 14th Hussars. He was being pursued by Lord Stuart Ponsonby and the 1st King's Dragoon Guards, but just over there, Captain Thunderbolt, under the devastating cover fire of 1,000 Aboriginal bowmen, wheeled Oliver around and charged directly at Ponsonby's dragoons, screaming his famous battle cry, "Pitchkati Matarina!" Naturally, the dragoons broke and ran screaming into the scrub, where they were eagerly slaughtered by the waiting Maori mercenaries, who used their bones to make necklaces for their women. Ponsonby tried to escape on his mare Nancy, hence the area being named Mayor's Run, but was run down by Oliver, and both the horse and Lord Ponsonby were promptly eaten.
Yeah, 500 kilo bear with 4-claw traction.
I think I've become one with the Thunderbolt, and it's been a liberating experience.
Pretty tough conditions out there,
And that's a slippery bit of shit road.
but I managed to come through with the win in the end.
The slippery bit kind of frightened me.
To come through with the win,
Yeah.
probably a little bit stiff.
English workhounds.
No, I've never ridden a bear.
They don't feel probably as good.
Yeah.
I gained a few insights.
Do I think Australians don't appreciate Captain Thunderbolt?
Number one for today. Number one.
Boris Winter. He didn't put the beer in the fridge.
See what you've done now?
Oh, It was down in this valley that Captain Thunderbolt made his last stand. Here he fought the massed guns of the 3rd Irish Foot, commanded by the Earl of Effingham, and the elite cavalry of the 8th Hussars, led by the less than brilliant Duke of Plough, Barnaby Joyce. After a prolonged battle that lasted several weeks, and forced the English to dig some 300 kilometres of defensive trenches and saps, the remains of which you can still see over there, Thunderbolt, his fighting bear Oliver, and his remaining men had run out of ammunition and supplies and dispersed into the hills like ghosts. The English declared victory and left the area, leaving behind some 6,000 wounded and more than 12,000 dead. As they returned south and east, there were reports of entire companies being wiped out and eaten by a giant bear. But since no witnesses survived, we are left with nothing but speculation and the legend that was Captain Thunderbolt and his fighting bear Oliver.